So you're in a dating or relationship situation, and suddenly it feels like this person is constantly pointing out small flaws and deactivating over those flaws, shutting down, pulling away, and sometimes not even telling you exactly what's on their mind. Well, what would a secure person do in this particular situation? Especially if they feel like the relationship is being picked apart. Because it can be really frustrating when somebody focuses on all the small things that are wrong instead of what's right. But even more than that, when they're not communicating healthily about what's on their mind and giving you the chance to solve for it. And without learning how to approach these types of situations in your life, whether it's in a dating or romantic relationship that you're currently in, or even if it's with a friend or family member and you find that these are a part of their behaviors, you may find that it drives a massive wedge between you and that person over time. So in today's video, I'm going to take you through 3 things a securely attached person would do if they felt like their partner or loved one was flaw finding in a relationship and just deactivating or shutting down because of it, so that you can replicate these behaviors and make sure that this isn't something that forces the destruction of a relationship over time. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name is Thais. I'm so happy you stopped by. I've been in the field of dating, relationships, attachment styles for more than 10 years and put daily content out here on this channel. So I hope you think of subscribing if you enjoy this content and if it hits home for you or is meaningful to you in any way. Now, one of the first things that you'll see a securely attached person do if there's flaw finding is they will not take it personally. Okay. Now, this is one of the arts of what it means to be securely attached. And, I once was a fearful avoidant attachment style. So I completely understand this is easier said than done. But this is such a meaningful thing to be able to practice in your life. And it is the ability to truly consider somebody's feedback without personalizing it. Okay. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say somebody came to me and they gave me critical feedback. Before I make it mean something deeply about me, like, you must not love me, I'm going to be abandoned, you don't care about my feelings. Notice how the mind often goes to that place when we hear criticism or feedback. It's actually because we have core wounds. And we talk a lot on this channel about core wounds and the importance of being able to rewire them, because you're not born with them. Core wounds are basically when you have painful experiences in your past and we store those experiences and we project them onto things thinking we're protecting ourselves in the present or future. The best analogy I have for this is if you're in the woods and you see a bear and you run away from the bear and you get safe, but the next day you have to walk back through those woods. What does your mind do? Your mind's like, where's the bear? Where's the bear? The bear's coming. Is it around that corner, that corner? And what's happened is your mind has stored the threat from the day before. And then because you're back in the environment where the threat occurred, it reprojects that out everywhere. Now, this is what happens with our core wounds. If somebody betrays us in our upbringing or childhood or a past relationship, what do? We constantly project the likelihood of betrayal occurring in the current relationship we're in. If we had a wound around being abandoned, we constantly look for where the person could be abandoning us. If we grew up in an environment where there was a lot of criticism and it made us feel not good enough or unworthy, we constantly see things through that lens and project that outwards. And so what happens is securely attached people don't really have very strong core wounds, if many at all. Whereas insecure attachment styles all have core wounds because they've had attachment trauma. Just like a bear, we store that and we reproject it outwards. And so there's tremendous value in being able to reprogram our core wounds. That's something you can do pretty easily. I'll tell you some more details about that in a little bit, but there's other videos on this channel that talk about core wounds as well and how to rewire them. So what happens is the securely attached person doesn't take these pieces of criticism so deeply and personally, which allows them to truly consider feedback as it is. I'll tell you from firsthand experience, when I was fearful avoidant, criticism, I would just shut down if somebody criticized me. Like I would just take it so personally and think that they meant that I was unworthy or unlovable. And I would just push somebody away because I almost wanted to like reject them before they inevitably rejected me. And for sure they were going to, because look, they're criticizing me and they think I'm unworthy or unlovable. But after I did a lot of core wound reprogramming, what was so cool is that I learned when people have feedback, one of 2 things are happening. Number 1, either it's actually going to be really meaningful and valuable for me to hear this out because they're coming to me with the best intentions to share something that may be a blind spot for me. And in that case, if I don't take it into consideration, I miss out on a really powerful opportunity to learn and grow. Or number 2, they're actually just projecting their stuff, which is a possibility too. But I'll know when I'm not projecting my stuff back onto potentially their stuff and going, oh my gosh, I'm unlovable or unworthy. And if I can just sit and think about it. So let's say that I'm working on a project and somebody comes to me and says, hey, you made a big mistake here, and here's how I think you can correct it. If my mind doesn't go to like, you think I'm not good enough, then I might be able to go, oh yeah, I did actually make a mistake. And this person was trying to show up for me and be real with me and tell me where they think I could improve because they saw that potential in me and they wanted to support me in my growth. And there's this old quote, and it says, criticism is an immense gift for those who are interested in self realization. And I find that to be very valuable and true. Criticism is actually an opportunity for us to grow and realize more about ourselves if we're willing to consider it. But if instead somebody came up and they said, you're annoying, and just said something that was rude or off the cuff or clearly didn't have any meaningful value, but was more about them just being triggered, I wouldn't go to like, oh, I'm not good enough. I would go to like, oh, that person's having a bad day. And so securely attached people, when they see flaw finding or criticism or people shutting down around things, the first thing that happens is they don't take it personally. And if there is actually meaningful information in the communication about a flaw, they'll take it to heart and they'll work to improve it, which just gives them a double advantage. The second thing that happens, okay, is if they do see it and they see, you know what, this person is just projecting, or this person's trying to find problems so they can, protect themselves and give themselves excuses to pull away, is the securely attached person will call that out. They'll say, hey, I'm open to working on myself. I'm open to your feedback if I know that that's feedback that can actually improve me or the relationship. But I'm getting more of a sense that maybe you're communicating about small things and almost trying to find problems rather than actually sharing what it is that you need from this relationship so that we can evolve together. And they would have an honest conversation about that so that there's the pattern, the overarching pattern of flaw finding being addressed instead of trying to go communicate and make up for all these little flaws. And essentially, they would be, I'm such a big believer in calling people out in a really healthy way. And so, for me, I was giving this example earlier today on a webinar, and I said, if somebody's passive aggressive with me, and not that that's the same thing as flaw finding, but it's a good analogy. If somebody's ever passive aggressive with me, like I have a family member in my life who's a little bit passive aggressive sometimes. And if they are, like, all I do is I don't have room for passive aggression. I don't like it because it feels like they're not able to communicate and get to the bottom of something. So all I do if somebody's passive aggressive is I say, hey, I notice that there's a little bit of tension and I want you, if you feel a certain way about something, to come to me and tell me what it is directly so we can work on it together. But right now, I can't tell what it is, so I don't know what to do. And I just tell them that really directly, really clearly. And guess what happens? Like every time it gets solved. And over time, that person's passive aggression has gone way down because they're realizing, oh, there's not room for it. And they're also forced to realize, oh, when I do that, it's actually me not communicating a need or not articulating myself well. And so there's an improvement in the dynamic. Now, if you never saw an improvement, then you might take a step back in whatever relationship that is. If it was flaw finding, if it was, any kind of habit you didn't like, if you tried to communicate and can't resolve it, maybe you take a small step back, depending on who it is. But, that would be a way to address something very directly and address the pattern instead of each little time that something takes place. Number 3, here's what securely attached individuals do. They honor their boundaries and they do keep encouraging. It's kind of like two things that go together: open communication and dialogue. So they'll say, look, I want to know when something's going on. They'll encourage that transparency, that openness, but they'll still honor their boundaries. Like if something doesn't change and if it's an unhealthy pattern and it just keeps happening and it's causing chaos, they're not going to stay in a relationship that's doing this because it goes against their needs and their truth. And it's such an important part of being able to dig into this dynamic. Now, I want to let you know, if you want to do a deeper dive into communication, because I think that it's something that so many people don't get a lot of healthy modeling for. And so you're just left to like your own devices of communication. You're often left to whatever your your programs or your conditions were that taught you communication growing up. For example, if you had two emotionally unavailable parents, they probably didn't show you much about communication. If you had two parents who were volatile in the relationship together, you probably learned to communicate in volatile ways. If you had parents who were codependent, you probably also act in codependent form. So if you want to make sure that you can break this pattern, change it, and create a new dynamic, I have a full course you can check out fully for free for a limited time. And it's 14 days fully free. So that's more than enough time to get through like one, if not two, or even 3 courses, because they're all just a couple hours long. And it's all about communication, how to thrive and master communication in a relationship. It gives all these tips and tools. And that is part of a full 14-day free trial we're running to all of our courses right now, as well as all of our daily live events, where you can come in, peer support groups, ask me your questions one-on-one in a group setting. So I'll put the link to that down below fully for free. And if you enjoyed this content for today, I hope you like, subscribe, and share with anybody who could benefit from this. And thank you so much for stopping by and for watching.